Hello there and welcome to another exciting edition of the EduTalk Show. The EduTalk Show is brought to you by the Ministry of Education in partnership with the Teacher Education Journal. Well, this week we're talking about the National Teacher Standards. What do you know about the National Teacher Standards and how is that contributing to ensuring a high teaching standard for improved child education? And in this episode, we'll be speaking to Lawrence Sapon, a man who's affectionately called Bishop. Well, he's the Deputy Registrar Operations at the National Teaching Council. And our conversation will be delving deeper into the National Teaching Standards. I'm sure that many of you are wondering what it's all about. We'll find out when Bishop starts to break it all down for us. But first, take a look at this. Lawrence Sapon, welcome to the EduTalk Show.
Thank you.
When we talk about the National Teacher Standards, what does it entail and how do you connect that to improved teaching?
Thank you very much. As you rightly mentioned, National Teachers Standards. So it means that it's a benchmark that has been set up by Ghana to measure the competency level of teachers. So as a teacher, if you don't meet the demands of that standard, that means that you cannot be certified as a teacher for the nation. And talk about the National Teacher Standards. In fact, the conception started way back 2004, where the ministry saw the need to restructure teacher education program. So the National Teacher Standard was developed by looking at the existing standards and looking at how teachers were trained then, and as a nation where we want to take our education to. So this standard was developed purposely to refine our teachers. And they have been in the system. Along the line, 2017, there was also a revision. So currently, as we speak, we have two different types.
Oh, so this is how...
Yeah, this is how the standard look like. Right. This one has three logos in the first front page. Then this one has only one logo. The difference between the two is that this one is the in-service teacher standards. Sorry, pre-service teacher standards. Right. It's for training of teachers in the teacher education institution. But this one is the combination of this and in-service teacher standards. So if a teacher has this one, which has JICA and UKAID logo at the back, this document contains both in-service and pre-service teachers standards. And it contains everything that teachers need to know, what they have to value and what they have to practice. So talking about standard, we are talking about three main things. What are the professional values and attitude. That's the first domain of the standard. Mm-hmm. Then we have professional knowledge. Then we also have professional practice. So the values and attitudes, as teachers, we have to live up to certain expectations so that our behavior can be valuable. Just as the Bible says, you can't give what you don't have. There's no way a teacher can also say I'm a teacher without understanding the profession that the teacher is in, or that teacher is practicing, or without understanding the curriculum that the teacher is practicing. Then we have professional practice. Now, you may have the knowledge, you may have the values, but how do you apply them? In an attempt to exhibit our skills as teachers, sometimes we abuse the learners. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we do things that are not expected of teachers. So the professional practice is how we exhibit professionalism. Therefore, it's just to say that when we talk about the National Teacher Standard, we are talking about three main areas, which we call the domains of the standards. So these are the professional values and attitudes, professional knowledge, and then professional practice. But if I'm to go deeper a bit, each of these domains also have sub-domains. So we have professional values and attitudes having 2 domains. That's community of practice and then professional development. Then when it comes to professional knowledge, we have knowledge of the educational frameworks and curriculum, which the teacher must be aware of. As you see now, some teachers don't even know the curriculum policies that exist. They are not aware of the PT/PDM policy. They are not aware of the early childhood policy. They are not aware of the ICT policy. They are not aware of the girl-child education policy and stuff. So that also exposes teachers to curriculum frameworks that are available. Then we have the knowledge of the learner. My brother, that is the most critical part for me. We have individual differences that exist among learners. A child born in Techiman and a child born in Akurdi, the way they brought up is different from somebody who was born in Accra here. So if you want to subject us to the same environment, it becomes difficult. So if you want to teach me, tap the things in my environment and use them to teach me. Somebody who is coming from a poor family, in those days, we were using what is called black and white television. Somebody was also in Accra here watching colored television. So the way I see Abed Pele is different from the way somebody see Abed Pele in Accra.
So times have changed.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's why many will be asking how relevant, are these standards to the 21st century teacher?
Coming out with the standard, we look at the individual differences and then the environmental settings to bring to bear what teachers need so that they can support the learners irrespective of their background. 21st century, we are talking about the use of ICT. If you look at the standard advocate how teachers can also use ICT in teaching and learning. But of course, teachers must use. What about the educational environment? Is it prepared for teachers to use the ICT? Now the ministry is also doing a lot, establishing smart classrooms and others. So the teachers are being prepared so that they can also face the challenge with the 21st century. And that's what the standard is advocating for. And if you look at the standards, it was not just couched from Ghana only. We also look at the best practices across the globe. And that helps us to come out with a standard that can stand test of time. We've exhibited or we've showcased the standards at the international level. I remember last year we were at Turkey. When we showcased the standard, those who came from Uzbekistan and Honduras, they were all happy about the way Ghana has go far to come out with the national teachers standard. And they pledged even coming down to Ghana to look at what we are doing. 13th November, just last year, UK was also in Ghana, the education department. They came to Ghana to also look at our standard. Before time, they had discussion with us about how we train teachers. And they were so happy, they said they will come back. And before they even say Jack, what we noticed that December was that Ghana has now been added to African countries where UK will be drawing teachers to support their education system. So if that is the case, then nobody should argue that Ghana is doing well as far as the teacher standards are concerned. If our standards are even going beyond the national benchmark to meet international standards, then it means that Ghana has a good future when it comes to training of teachers and, for that matter, our educational system.
So as an average teacher, how would this standard be a guide to my operations? How is it organized? What are the details and what should I expect if I pick up this document?
Thank you very much. As I earlier mentioned, that there are 3 domains, and within these 3 domains, we have subdomains. So I always call it 2, 2, 3. The subdomains are 7. The professional values and attitude has 2 subdomains. Then the professional knowledge has 2 subdomains. Professional practice has 3 subdomains. So I call it 2, 2, 3, making 7. And within each subdomain, we have the standards. These are specific or unique standards. So for example, if you take community of practice, it has its own standards under them. And when we say standard, they are the benchmarks. What teachers are expected to do, that's the standard. But with regard to the question that you asked, you can't tell the teacher that I expect you to critically and collectively construct or criticize your work or whatever, or share knowledge. You can't say the teacher must use ICT. How? So the standard is structured in 3 columns. When you go, the 3 columns, we have the standards on the first column.
Okay.
We have standards in action in the second column. The standard in action here talks about how the teacher should use the standards. And then we have a 3rd column, which also talks about verification protocols. So I am not in your school. If I come to the school now, how would I know that you are living up to the standards? The 3rd column mentions verification protocols. So for example, if the teacher is using learner-centered approach, I must see that reflection in the teacher's learner plan or lesson plan. If the teacher is really bringing everybody on board by considering individual difference, vis-a-vis gender-based, gender-responsive pedagogy, then I must see that in the lesson plan of the teacher. So we have indicators that guide us to also measure whether or not the teacher is living up to expectation. So let me just take one for us to look at how it works. I think those who listen to us, if they go to, for instance, page 28, they will see a standard called teaching and learning. Then under the teaching and learning, the teacher employs educational strategies appropriate for mixed ability and multilingual or multi-age class. So that's the standard, how teacher can employ mixed strategies to support learners. But we don't leave it like that. When you go to the second column, the instructional strategies are differential to target different grade learners within the one classroom or organizing the classroom to support multi-grade. So it gives details what the teacher should do to meet the standards. Then I being the supervisor, I being the head teacher, I being the second supervisor or the national level officer, if I go there, what am I going to look at? The termly or the weekly lesson plan, that's the 3rd column. The records of progress, the resources that the teacher use. If I look at them, I will be able to tell whether the teacher is using things that will help him or her.
Let's talk about the resources, for instance. Do you, for instance, dictate specifically what learning materials the teacher should be making use of in this document?
Thank you very much. The standard makes it open, but guide the teacher to look at the environment where the teacher is operating. In Accra here, somebody may want to use projector. But when you go to where there's no electricity, you can't say the teacher should use projector. Yeah. But the teacher should also have material that the learner can interact with in order to also meet the learning goals. So the standards are not casting, so they are not rigid. They don't restrict teachers.
So there's room for creativity.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of teaching. So the standards make room for teachers to be innovative and creative in their own ways. But they can do this by going through the subdomains vis-a-vis the standards and the standards in action.
Well, so this is why we call him the bishop. When we get back, I am interested in finding out, for instance, what happens to a teacher who doesn't follow the national teacher standards. We'll unpack all of that when we return from the break. You're watching the EduTalk Show. We'll be right back. And you're welcome back to the EduTalk Show. Here on the EduTalk Show, we update you on all the matters happening in the education sector. Here on the EduTalk Show, we keep you informed and educated. The show is brought to you by the Ministry of Education in partnership with the Teacher Education Journal. Well, so I'm curious, just as you are, about the National Teacher Standards. And Bishop, well, we call him Lawrence Sapong, is here helping us to dissect all of the issues relating to the National Teachers Standards. But for now, we are dealing with the implications. And I was asking that question earlier, Lawrence, about, say, if I'm a teacher and I say, well, you have a good standard, you have the National Teacher Standard, but I won't follow this. I would just go into the classrooms and do what I feel is okay with me. What happens then to such a teacher?
The council is backed by law to deal with teachers who don't comply with the laws that the council has established. So if you are not able to live up to the expectation of the standard, or you decide to do your own thing, at the end of the day, when we come for the assessment, that the compliance and enforcement, you may not be able to meet the scores or the assessment targets.
Oh wait, so there's the compliance aspect of all of this?
Exactly, because this is the national teacher standard.
Okay.
How do we ensure that teachers are living up to expectation?
You must follow up.
There's a whole department called the Standard and Compliance Department that will go to the field to ensure that teachers are living up to the standard. Look, as I mentioned earlier,
Right.
a teacher who is meeting the standards will be given a license. That is a seal to tell the whole world that this has been certified by Ghana to practice in our school. So after 2 years, we'll come back to check whether you are still living with the expectation of the standards. And if you are not living within the expectation of the standards, what it means is that your license will be revoked.
Totally.
Totally. And once your license is revoked, you cease to become a teacher. Unless you go through the processes to renew your license. And you can never renew your license without adhering to the standards and also attending the professional development program. Even the professional development program that we are talking about, they are designed through the prescription of the standards. So whether you'll be able to live up to the expectations of the professional development programs or not, you must comply with the, how do you call it, the national teacher standards. So just to answer your question straight away, if a teacher does not live up to the expectations of the standards, it means that that teacher cannot practice because your license will be revoked. And it's illegal for a teacher to practice in Ghana without license.
But Lawrence, here's my own take on the policy. It appears you're using the carrot and stick approach. If you do well, you're rewarded. If you do wrong, then of course the sanctions will follow. But how about the teachers themselves owning this policy? Is there any role for the average teacher out there to also ensure the efficiency of the standards?
Yes, so that's why we said the standards were developed by teachers.
Okay.
They are for teachers and they are to be used by teachers. We didn't bring politicians at the time that we developed the standards. It was, interviews were conducted, focus group discussions were done to ascertain information from teachers, how they want to practice as professionals, how they want to be called professional, like the accountant, like the doctor, like the lawyers. And they said, this and these are things that we want to see our colleagues doing. So it's not the National Teaching Council, it's not the Ministry of Education, it's not our sponsors like UKAID and TTL that came out with this standard from somewhere. It's the teachers themselves, and they've agreed to go by this.
Okay.
That is why we see the hope, the future, being brighter if teachers have agreed to be guided by standards, so that they can also be like their colleagues. But, you know, for every institution, there are some deviants who may want to go wayward. And you agree with me that if a driver is caught on the street with a license, a driver with invalid license, the law enforcement officers will deal with that person. In the same way, if a medical doctor is in the theater or is in the consulting room without license, the law will also deal with that person. So as teachers, we are also guided by law. And the law says that you must live up to the expectations of the standards so that you can be licensed. And you decide to go away. It means that you don't want to count yourself among that organization or that profession. And this is not something that is imposition.
But I was asking my earlier question because of the issue about peer review, for instance. How do we ensure that this teacher is checking the other, just to ensure that there is efficiency within the system?
Good. If you look at the standards, even the first standard, which is under the professional values and attitude, give room for teachers to collectively criticize their own work. It gives room for teachers to also allow their learners to give them feedback on what they are doing. And apart from that, we have also come out with professional development program through the support of TTL that's being piloted at the senior high school level, where teachers come together to study how they can also live up to expectations of the standards.
I see that given the hard work that has gone into this, you'd want teachers to make good use of the standards. What measures are you putting in place from your outfit at the National Teaching Council to ensure that we put this document to good use?
Thank you very much. If you look at the EduTalk show, it's one of the platforms that is helping teachers to get in-depth knowledge of the relevance of the standards. So if the teachers watch this program, I think it will help them. TTEL has also supported NTC to do sensitization program. So every year we go to the colleges of education to sensitize them on the use of the standard. Apart from that, we have also developed what is called National Teacher Education Curriculum Framework, which is an offshoot from the National Teacher Standards. It's a document that is being used by every teacher education institution, that the College of Education or the university, to train teachers. So, by unconscious effort,
right,
teachers will definitely use the standard if they are only implementing the curriculum framework that they are using. And apart from this, we also have the standards available online where teachers can also access to learn. The professional development program that we are also embarking on, where we are awarding CPD points to teachers. Everything or every topic, every facet, every aspect of the CPD program is also hinged on the standard. For example, there's no way a service provider can bring a program for us to accredit without making reference to the standard that he or he is using to educate the teachers. So these are sort of the effort that we are putting in place to help the teachers to make use of the standards. And as Ghanaians, if this document is for us and we don't value it, but we wait for others to come and take before we see how it works. So we need to encourage our teachers.
Right.
And the head teachers have been oriented on it. But you know, every year we get new set of head teachers coming on board, or new set of school leaders coming on board.
So there'll be continuous training.
Yes, so you can't just stop. Those who are coming from the teacher education institution, they are being trained on the standards. Those who are already in the service, it is also integrated into their professional development program. So it will always be there with us.
Okay, and just as teachers as well, I'm sure that there'll be prospective ones that will now become in-service teachers. By the time, of course, they're getting used to this document, they may have some feedback on it, or want to reach out to the National Teaching Council on just to suggest to your council how you can improve the policy. Are you creating room for feedback, for monitoring, for evaluation of this policy?
Thank you very much. For example, if we go to the field to do the compliance check, it is telling us, the feedback that we get tells us something. Why are they not complying? What are the challenges? What are the issues? Then we also work with the teacher unions to also get their feedback. If we have to revise the standards, when it becomes necessary, we will do that. But one interesting thing about the essence of teachers using the standards is that when you go through the Ghana Teacher Prize, teachers who are able to adhere to the National Teacher Standards are those who get the award for the Ghana Teacher Prize. We have also opened our office door for them to also bring out their challenges, issues for us to address them.
Now you are making the pre-service teachers jealous because they would be wondering, why are we just focusing on those in service? So you gave 2 documents earlier on. For those who are pre-service, how are they captured under the National Teacher Standards?
Thank you very much. As I mentioned earlier, if you take the National Teacher Standards, we have Section 1 and Section 2. The Section 1 is for the pre-service, and then the Section 2 is for the in-service teachers.
So let's say before and after.
Yes, yeah. So that's why I am saying that the standards is a continual measure to guide the practice of the teachers. So whilst you are in the school, the standards have been integrated in the curriculum that that is used to train them. So I mentioned that we have something that is called National Teacher Education Curriculum Framework. This is a framework that is designed for training of teachers in the universities and in the College of Education. And that curriculum has its elements imbibed with the standards. So even if the teachers are not having the National Teacher Standards as a document that they are using in the classroom, by virtue of implementing the curriculum in the schools, they are complying with the National Teacher Standards. The reason why when the pre-service teacher come out, we are saying that, if it is true that you have gone through the standards as part of training, then come and sit for this license examination for us to see whether you meet the standards. So the license examination is for those who have gone through the training with regard to the National Teacher Standards. We measure whether you meet the standard before we allow you to go to our job market. I hope you are aware that we have Bell Aqua, we have Vortic, and these are companies that have their certificate to operate
there are
as
standards.
But when you produce the product, you don't just send it to market because you have given the certificate to produce them.
Right.
Standard authority want to come and measure whether they meet the national standard before they allow you to send it to the market. In the same way, the institutions have all been credited by GTEC to practice as tertiary institutions. But whether or not the products or the teachers that are coming out meet the standard, they need to sit the license exams. So any teacher education institution that will try to do their own thing without going by the standard will have their students going through a challenge of passing the license examination. But those who use the standards to train their students, they pass the license examination with ease.
What message do you have for prospective and in-service teachers?
Yeah, since I'm also a teacher, I would say, colleagues, there's no way you can practice without standards. If we really want to call ourselves professionals, then we need to exhibit professional competencies. And all these professional competencies are found in the National Teacher Standards. Because the standards tell us what we should value, the kind of attitude we should put in place. It gives us the kind of knowledge we should have, how we should also exhibit our skills as professionals. And above all, is the standard that is used to license us as teachers. So it's available online. Let's go to online. You can Google for National Teacher Standard for Ghana and you'll get it. Let's stay in touch as we go through the National Teacher Standards. If you have any challenge, you can also come to our office. We'll assist you. Or you can use our NTC hotline to also reach out to us. Or you can use the future when they ask questions. You can get more information about the standards. Thank you.
Well, that's why they call you the bishop, but we're grateful. We need to do this once more.
Sure.
Lauren Sapon is the Deputy Registrar, Operations at the National Teaching Council. And I'm sure that if not for the Edu Talk Show, you wouldn't have heard about the National Teacher Standards and how it is contributing to an improved child education. And thanks for watching the Edu Talk Show. Of course, I'm sure that you've been educated in this episode that we brought to you. Of course, there'll be more giving you details about some other reforms happening in the education sector. But for now, we're grateful to the Ministry of Education, which brought us this show in partnership with the Teacher Education Journal. My name is Blessed Sogan. I will see you once more in our next episode of the Edu Talk Show. Keep watching. Bye-bye for now.